Hey, I want to talk about Black Panther. I want to talk about it. I saw it and it wasn't as fun as most Disney Marvel movies, which is, I mean, it wasn't as fun until like the white people showed up, which was really sad because pretty much the only reason I watch Disney Marvel movies is because they do have like that fun humor aspect to them, which even though I'm not a big fan of Disney Marvel, that does, you know, it allows me to, you know, watch the movies and be entertained and still keep up with like popular culture and stuff. So it's kind of too bad that they didn't like give that same sort of humor aspect to like the main characters. But it was very pretty, and I do have that to say about it. It was visually very appealing, and it is an important movie. It is, because it is the first solo superhero movie with a black superhero lead. And it was full of like culture, like aspects of African culture. And it was full of that kind of stuff, and that's really good that they have that. Although there was like this brief scene, and just like in passing, there was like an animal skin that was like laid out to dry, and I feel like, I mean, obviously that's kind of messed up, and I know that they did that probably back in you know, ancient Africa. And even like today, not just in Africa, but all over. Of course, we kill and skin animals, but I feel like that's not something you can just gloss over. Like, if you want to show that part of the culture, I think you have to be a little more explicit about the fact that they did that because they needed to for like wearing it and stuff. And obviously they didn't even need to in this society because they're so advanced and they have so much technology and stuff. They didn't need to be skinning animals, so that was kind of messed up. But that was the only thing that I thought was like not good about the culture that they showed for like African culture. And but the real problem that I had with this movie is that, isn't it kind of racist to make the whole movie just kind of basically about that, about like the culture, about kind of representing, I don't know. I mean, I know it's important to show people this, that, I mean, because there's still lots of people who think that the ancient Greeks were the only ancient society with like advanced thinkers and processes and mathematics and stuff like that, which is ridiculous. So it is important to show that other ancient cultures, like ancient like Africa, they had that too. They were advanced too. And so I'm glad that they showed, you know, aspects of ancient African culture that showed that. But the way that I'm talking about, like the characters were basically, I'm talking about T'Challa and his family and his people, who were the main characters. I just feel like they were basically the culture. They weren't individuals, and I feel like that gives, and it's not like they were like bad characters or unlikable characters, but they were all just like really wise and regal, and they were all that way, and I feel like that gives people who are racist, but not in like the typical racist way, you know, I mean, Get Out just came out last year. I'm so rambly. I'm sorry. I have to like title all my reviews Rambly reviews. I've noticed that I suck at reviews. But thank you for coming along for the ride if you're still watching anyway. I mean, Get Out just came out last year, and it was about like this other type of racism that's also like very much alive. I mean, as opposed to like the racism where they hate black people, there's like a type of racism where they love black people but still don't see them as individuals and just kind of see them as like they're all kind of the same, and they're great. I mean, black people are great, and people feel like that makes them not racist, believing that all black people are great, but it does. If they don't believe that each black person is an individual with their own unique personality and everything, then they're still racist. And I feel like that's what this movie gives to people who are racist and want to believe that all black people are kind of the same, even though all black people are great. There are people out there who want to see all black people as like wise and regal and in touch with nature and stuff. And that's what this movie gave them. It gave them a bunch of characters who were just like that. And it also gave them one character who's the other type of, you know, stereotypical black person who a lot of people want to believe all black people are like that. Who all, you know, a lot of people want to think that all black people are like angry and disadvantaged and vengeful and fatherless and yeah, so and I know that a lot of black people are that way, and that's sad, and I don't want to just ignore those people. I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying that that character shouldn't have been in there, because I know that that's a realistic type of character. I mean, when you're faced with like a certain type of injustice all the time, that can kind of become your identity. So in a way, I think it was good that they had that character in there who basically his identity was, you know, about like the injustices that are done to black people. That was what his whole identity was. Like, it was all based around that. And I know that that's true to life. A lot of people do become, you know, what they focus on. If they focus on a certain injustice enough, that's basically their identity at that point, right? So I'm not saying that that character was necessarily bad to be in there, but I do think it gave a lot of people what they wanted to see about black people, which was that they're all angry and disadvantaged and stuff like that, and then other racist people are gonna get what they want to see out of this movie, which is that all black people are like really wise and regal and you know, and so what I just don't think that, and I know that, oh god, and I know that this movie, coming at this point in American history, there were a lot of things going on right now that I don't think it can just ignore, and it's right to kind of address those things a little, but I think it's not a great use of a movie. I think we watch the news and we read like editorials and stuff to get an idea of what the social injustices of today are, and a movie is supposed to be more of a personal connection. And I think that's one of the reasons that Wonder Woman was great. So, because she struggled with like her faith in humanity. She like lost her faith in humanity and made the choice to do what was right anyway. And that, I feel like, is a really deep issue that is sort of universal, in that not necessarily everyone can relate to it, but anyone can. You don't have to be a woman, right? So, and I feel like that's what this movie should have done. It should have given the main characters, at least one of them, some deep issue that they struggled with that could be relatable to anyone in the audience, whether they're black or not. And I feel like that was completely lacking in this movie. I feel like everything that they dealt with was purely related to being black or being African. And I think that, like I said, I mean, I know it was exploring some important issues, but like I said, I think movies are meant to make people feel like a personal connection. So people should have been able to feel like a personal connection to T'Challa or to someone in the movie, to feel like, yeah, you know, I'm not black, but I can relate to that, so that, you know, the movie presented black people as individuals who are unique and maybe all deal with certain issues, but are still unique, still individuals, and I feel like that was lacking in this movie, honestly. And there were things that it could have done, I feel like, to make it seem more like about the deeper universal issues that everyone deals with. I thought they were kind of doing that with, like, T'Challa mourning the death of his father. I feel like, but I thought maybe they were gonna start to explore, like, his grief and his like the 5 stages of loss, I think. 5 stages of loss. I thought maybe they were gonna get into that, but, like, that part of the movie was over really fast, where he was, like, mourning the death of his father. Like, he had, like, a short conversation with his dad, and then I was like, okay, everything's great now. I'm totally at peace with my dad passing. And so that was, like, another issue that I had with this movie, which is not an issue that's unique to this movie. I feel like definitely other movies have this problem, even other Disney Marvel movies. I've said already that I'm not a big fan of Disney Marvel movies, but I watch them anyway. But they do have problems, and I don't love them. And the problem here was that the movie wasn't, like, super cohesive. Like, it had all these little things, like, it started out in 1992 with, like, this other story with different characters completely, and then it moved to, like, the opening, like, action sequence where T'Challa was, like, getting his girlfriend. And so you see each of these things and you're like, okay, so maybe this is what the movie's gonna be about, and then it was just over. And so, like, there was, like, the opening mission, and then there was the challenge thing where all the tribes came and they were able to challenge, and I thought maybe it was gonna be about that, and I thought maybe the movie was gonna be about T'Challa's, like, journey towards becoming king and earning, like, the respect of these people who thought that they had, like, some sort of tiff with the technology that the other tribes were using, and I thought, so maybe the movie's gonna be about that, but then that was over, and and then they had, like, Gollum and Michael B. Jordan stealing that vibranium, and I thought maybe so that's what the movie's gonna be about. They stole this artifact for some reason, and then that was over. That was, like, totally not even important, really. And then they had, like, this mission in Korea where they were trying to find Gollum, and I thought maybe that's what the movie was gonna be about. Finding Gollum. But then that was over, and then I don't know, just, like, so many things happened that were then just kind of over. And the thing is, like, very early on in the movie, you should be able to tell what the movie's basically going to be about. That's just basic storytelling, I feel. And you should know what the main conflict of the movie is pretty early on. And I didn't know what the main conflict of this movie was until it was over. And so I just feel like it wasn't well written, well structured in that regard. It was actually structured in a way that was more TV than movie, because, like, they introduced these elements, like the people having a problem with the technology and stuff, in a way, and then they ended it in a way that it could come back, like, in a couple episodes. Like, so they started and ended a lot of things. They introduced a lot of things that could play out as separate little story threads throughout, like, a season. That's how this was structured, but it doesn't work in a movie, because these little things that you introduce in a movie, you can either reintroduce them within the same movie, which just seems like way too soon, and that's basically what they did here. They had a lot of elements that they introduced at the beginning that they kind of dropped, and then sort of kind of reintroduced at the end, and it was just too soon. Or you could introduce these elements at the beginning, like in the pilot episode. Well, in this case, at the beginning of the movie, and then like reintroduce them in later movies, but that would be too long to wait, because I think like superhero movies come out every other year or every third year. That's way too long. But it would work if it was like a TV series, because then you could reintroduce it next week or the week after, you know, episode by episode. And then you could have all these different story threads running through it, and that would be just fine. Sorry, I'm still a little sick. But so it was not structured well for a movie, in my opinion. And also, did anyone else get like major Star Wars vibes from it? Because that's what I was thinking about the whole time when they were talking about, like, they had like these councils where they were talking about political stuff and war, and it seemed very Star Wars the prequel trilogy to me. And so yeah, and also, was I supposed to care when Zuri died? Because I feel like that was a very strangely dramatic moment for a character who I feel like I've never seen before this movie. And he was barely in this movie, and everyone was like super upset about him dying. Everyone in the movie. I don't know about everyone in real life, but I was like, who cares? He was barely in this movie. I barely knew him. But so that was weirdly dramatic, and then it was weirdly undramatic when like the leader of the female warriors died. I feel like she was like a way more important character than Zuri. She was way more prominent, and then she was killed really suddenly, and nobody really cared that much. It was very strange. But again, okay, this movie is like visually very beautiful, and it is important, and I do like that it's very positive about, you know, African culture, and it's and it gave like very prominent roles to black women, and obviously this is the first solo black superhero movie, and that's great, and I'm really glad that it's doing well, and I want it to do well. It's making a lot of money, and I think that's great, and I don't want it to do anything less than that, but yeah. I personally didn't like it that much, and I think it's almost kind of a little bit racist, and I feel like they kind of were trying to please they were like pandering to their demographic. Like, I feel like the Disney Marvel movies play well in middle America and places where they're a little bit racist in either one way or another, and I almost feel like they were kind of pandering to those audiences, right? But I don't know. I mean, everyone loves this movie, black people love this movie, and so maybe I'm just completely wrong and I have no idea what I'm talking about. So, if that's the case, just comment below and tell me why I'm wrong, because I'm open to hearing why I'm wrong about this movie being just a tiny bit racist. I think I'm going to title this Black Panther is Racist, but that's just because I hope that people will click on it, even though they haven't clicked on any of my previous reviews, except for like maybe like one person clicked on each of my reviews, and I understand that because I clearly suck at reviews, and I wish I could speak better. But maybe I'll get better at it. Because it's understandable that you don't want to hear me ramble and stuff, but if you are watching and you have made it this far, please comment below. And yes, thank you for watching. I have other videos. I mostly do like reactions and reviews and like some other stuff too, but mostly reactions and reviews, and you can check out those videos and you can subscribe and like if you want, and thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.